It's been a while, obviously, since my last posting, but um, one of the things I talked about then on slavery was that you had to understand everything in context, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit more because context is everything. Um, when I first started doing these videos, I said I wanted to talk about our founders and our civilization and so forth, and I've kind of bounced around on that and now gotten on this. But I think seeing what I'm seeing, most of us, and part of this is educational establishment, and part of it is us and everything else. We do not understand where we came from or how we got here. And that's part of the context I'm talking about. For instance, in the United States, some of the founders right now are being denigrated because some of them own slaves and this and that and so forth and so on. But on the other side of that coin, they were considered wild-eyed radicals, and no one gave this country a chance because they changed. They really did. They changed the world for the better. Did they make mistakes? Sure, we all make mistakes. And we have to try to rectify that. And that's been one of the saving graces about the United States. We've screwed up here, we've screwed up there. But by and large, we've moved forward. And that's what civilization is moving forward and taking care of where you are and who you are and what you can achieve and how you can achieve it. And this is all kind of gobbledygook in a way, but you cannot judge, well, I can't say you cannot because obviously people do, but to judge people from 200 years ago, 50 years ago, 2,000 years ago by today's standards is silly, because if you wipe out those people, then how did you get here? How did you get to where you are? You don't know how you got to where you are. You don't know what those people did, what they went through, the achievements that they arrived at. Sometimes against huge odds, but to take that person and judge him by today's standards, and we wouldn't have today's standards if it had not been for those people. And I think that's hard for a lot of us to understand. You know, it's like Aristotle, who I understand some people are now going after, at one point basically condone, in one of his writings, condoned the idea of slavery. But Aristotle was a groundbreaking individual, and a lot of our scientific method came from him. The way we deduct and reason and came from him. He was an unbelievable brain, but also he was a man of his times. And basically, slavery was a given at that time. But I don't want to get back into that, but to take that and Plato too, and you going up the line. Now we're condemning people from the Middle Ages, so the European Middle Ages, a feudal period. But you had that was a form, the feudalism, whereby people were protected, and that lord or whatever of the manor, it devolved upon them to protect that. Now later they abused that, and things changed. And they changed because of other writers, other thinkers, other people who came along and looked long and hard. And what I wanted to do in this series of videos was try to look at those people and try to show how what they said, what they did, how they arrived at certain ideas put us here. Andrew Jackson right now is getting beat up a lot. But without Andrew Jackson, there probably wouldn't be a United States as we know it. He did expand the voting franchise, and everybody, because not everybody could vote. You had to own property and so on and so on when he came in, and he expanded that. Now, he didn't expand it to everybody, and again, he was a man of his times, but people hated his guts for doing that, what he did at the time. And I think if you refuse to read history, and I don't just mean a history with an agenda like this guy, Howard Zinn, who I think that's right, whose work I've read, he has an agenda which is to prove everything about us is bad and wrong. Well, everything about everybody can be bad. It can be wrong. But people have saving graces. There have been bad people who did good things. And because of them, we're better off. Was Edward the First? Is it Edward the First of England? Who, if you saw the movie Braveheart, he was played by a very good actor. He played him basically as a villain. But Edward Longshanks was really a very good king of England, and he expanded and did a lot of things that were good for English citizens. And I won't get into all that now, but if you take him out of context, if you just take him from that one standpoint, whereby he was interfering in Scottish affairs because what they were doing endangered his affairs, English affairs, because the Scots were aligning with the French on many levels, and the French and the English were at each other. But if you don't understand that, then you just have the bad guy. And I understand movies, you have to have good guys, bad guys, and so forth. But if you're going to be serious, and if you want to look and condemn, then you have to look at the total picture. And that's hard to do, and it takes some work. But if you're going to be a good citizen, if you're going to try to improve things, if you're going to try to make the world better than it was when you came here, then you need to look at everything. And if you don't, then you get a skewered view. If you only know your side of the story, then you're going to end up destroying whatever you're trying to achieve. And I've lived in what's called third world countries. And this place where we are now is really kind of Disneyland. It's a good place. And now a lot of things are happening that are hurting us, and that's because we are not looking at the total picture. You want people from the past to be perfect. Well, nobody is perfect. Everybody has blemishes. Everybody has warts. There's only been one perfect person in history. And and the people demanding perfection are very imperfect themselves, because they won't listen, they won't entertain any other thoughts, and they basically run and hide or abuse the people who do not think the same way they do. And you can't get anywhere if you don't compromise, because people are always going to disagree. They always are. And typically, if you can find the mean without going too far this way or too far that way, because as Eric Hoffer, the longshoreman philosopher, read his work sometime, and he talked about fanaticism, and he said, if you go too far right and if you go too far left, eventually the two of them meet, and they both want the same thing. They both want to control your life. And I don't think anybody wants that. I think people want freedom of choice, the freedom to live their lives, the freedom to make decisions, the freedom to go to work, the freedom to raise their families. And you can't do that from only one side. If you only get one side, then you never have any debate. If you don't have any debate, then you make massive screw-ups, and because you can't hear the other side. And I don't want to go on too long here, but the whole point is keep things in context. If you look at the past, you cannot judge the past by now, because you didn't get to now unless those people did what they did in the past. And some of them did as good and bad things, left and right. And a lot of them did what the best they could under the circumstances, and some of them did things to advance their own agenda, and it ended up being the right thing. But you need a little bit of conflict in the world. You need a little bit of debate. Not a little, you need a lot of debate. And that's what we have in England and here in other places. You have the ability to debate one another, to yell and scream at one another, and that's okay. As long as you can talk about it and maybe listen a little bit, then things will work out. But take some time, do some research, do some reading. I mean, now with the computers, you can access anything. And I would encourage you to get the books. I mean, right now, I've gone back. This is from, I think, 1926 or so. And by a great historian named Will Durant. But reading it is better for my eyes than doing it online. But read books. I mean, you have more access to more information than we've ever had in the history of the planet. And don't just limit yourself to text. That can be fine. I'm not putting that down. But you need to get more in depth, and you need to get more context. Being clever is good. I mean, many philosophers have written in the one sentence, three sentence category, which could qualify as a text or a tweet or whatever, and had been very, very good at getting their thoughts across. But you need to get more in depth. You need to understand where we came from, how we got here, and that just because people are not the way you expect things to be now, you want things now, then it's not going. You're not going to understand them, and you're going to end up not understanding why you got to where you are.